unless you're going to take the ventilator off the stand, you will always want your low flow to go through the reservoir, and so you won't use this little port. This little port is used where you don't have your cylinder underneath. Yeah, but the cylinder's not. So this is the thing I'm talking about, the low flow oxygen. So you're generally probably not going to be using that with the way that we're going to be using the ventilator in Sierra Leone right now. But where it says external battery source, that's where you will plug in your external battery. So when your internal battery is running low, then you plug in your external battery here at that little black area there. But when you want to use the internal battery, you always have to unplug the external battery. Because as long as you have the external battery plugged there, it will not use the internal battery. Even if the external battery goes dead, it still will not use the internal battery as long as he is plugged into that port. So whether or not you're using internal battery or external battery is dependent upon whether your external battery is plugged into that particular port. Any questions on that? You understand that?
Yes.
You plug into the port when you want to use external battery. You disconnect from that port when you want to use internal battery. And you try to keep both batteries charged all the time so you have maximum number of hours in case you have a long power failure.
So what is the advice? To run off the internal battery first?
Yes. Yes.
Technically, you could do either way. You could have a policy that you do the internal battery and then you switch to external.
Yes.
You could have a policy where you do the opposite. You do external battery, you turn it to internal. Let's ask Cullen whether he has a recommendation of one or the other.
Yeah, so we generally recommend that you start with the internal battery and then switch to the external. So generally speaking, we'll leave the external battery disconnected from the CCV and have both the external battery and the CCV charging.
Okay.
It makes sense because the indicator lights for the battery are more easily visible for the internal outlet. You'll be looking at that face anyway. Whereas you're not all the time going to look down there.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing to note there is that if you do connect the external battery, and then you're using the external battery, that battery indicator will show you the external battery. So it will show you the status of whichever one is connected.
Okay.
But yeah, we do recommend that you leave the external battery disconnected unless you
can
need
try it. You can try it, and then you see the changing of the lead in front. You can try it now.
So here it says
Yes.
external
Yeah.
power from the socket. And if I put this in,
You see that?
okay.
Right.
So now you see it.
But to save the efficiency and durability of the batteries is why we suggest that or recommend that you first choose the internal one before moving to the external one.
Then how can you check the external?
It's always on the
Oh,
it's
okay.
there.
Big charge here.
That's why we have the street connector.
So this is the external battery. This is the ventilator, and this is the line. Follow the line to this
Oximeter.
extension board. No,
There-
to the
there's-
extension board.
There's an
I know,
adapter
I
for
know.
the oximeter.
I
We
know.
are also checking.
So power comes in here,
Okay,
then you have your power board, you have your two things
Yes.
coming off.
okay, so next, underneath there, you have this very, I think it's a very beautiful looking black plastic thing with a silver knob, it looks like. But on the picture, it looks like a sponge. Because when you take that black covering off, there's a sponge under there, which is a filter, because that's where your air is coming into the ventilator to dilute with your oxygen to make your different percentages of oxygen that you're giving to the patient. So never cover. You have to just make sure that that's never covered. Because if that's covered, then the ventilator is going to really struggle. Because it's going to be trying to suck the air in. That's where it sucks the air in to it. So you got to make sure that there's not a piece of, could be maybe a piece of fabric or plastic, or make sure that that's never covered. And then also make sure that there's a blue pressure relief valve down here,
Holes.
and that also shouldn't be covered. The two fuses, your biomedical technician there from Gradient, if ever there was a power surge that affected the fuses, then he would replace those fuses. And of course, that's where you just plug the ventilator in for power.
Fuses, power.
I think those are pretty self-explanatory, so we'll go on to the next. And now, we're going to have the ventilator turned to the other side. This side is very important because it's got the exhalation valve control, and then that's the little silver nipple looking thing up on top. Okay? And then there's one that looks more bluish under it, and that's the patient airway pressure. Now on your tubing, one of your tubing looks greenish, but it looks greenish because you have reusable tubing that can be washed. If you were using disposable tubing, it would look bluish. And so green and blue, consider them the same thing. So the green one goes into that blue. So the colored one goes in the colored one. And then the clear one goes into the silver one. And that's very important because that's where the ventilator is getting the pressure information to know what's happening with the patient. And then the patient breathing circuit is going into that large one, which is obviously says patient breathing circuit. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The remote alarm connection is only for places that are all fancy and want to have it connected to some kind of distant alarm system. So don't worry about that. What you just need to worry about is the three ports there. That's where your breathing circuit, those 3 ports are where your breathing circuit is connecting to the ventilator. And it is very important, as long as you know how to do that, you need to be able to connect it. When you're connecting and disconnecting, you have a very special reusable tubing that can be washed and reused. So you want to be able to reuse it as many times as possible. So if you abuse it, if you just pull it any kind of how, and you don't take care to remove it carefully, you will tear the tubing and it won't last. And then you have to worry about getting more tubing. So just be very gentle when you're disconnecting that tubing. And when the video that you're going to see that Gradient made will actually emphasize that same exact point. So I definitely want you to also watch the video, maybe while you're eating. while you're eating, today or something like that, there, maybe you can just watch the video.